morning, everyone, and Happy New Year! Happy New Year, everyone! Sorry I'm a little bit late. Uh, all the software wasn't cooperating with me, but it is now, and so I think. So please let me know if the audio is coming through okay. Trying to make sure I can see all of you in chat. Awesome. But hi, everyone. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits. And on this YouTube channel, I like to dye yarn, but then we also have some unboxings that we'll be taking care of today. So my plan is to dye some yarn, chat, hang out, unbox some things, and all of that jazz. Now, let's see, the unboxings that I'll be doing today are from KnitPicks. I am a KnitPicks affiliate, so I do earn commission if you make purchases through the links I have in the video description, but I did purchase all of this yarn and fiber myself. I'm also an affiliate with Paradise Fibers. They send me their Fiber of the Month Club subscription for free for me to unbox and share as I see fit. And I will be unboxing the December Paradise Fibers Club in today's stream as well. But yes, and so I am excited, and I also had like a last minute phone call as I was about to start, and everything is okay, but I'm like, oh no, oh no. Yeah, but so new year, same me, and we're gonna play with color. So let me show you what I've pulled. I've pulled up on the counter over there a lot of stock solutions that I made last year, which some of them might be a little old. Most of them are actually not that old, but you know, because it's what, January 5th, it makes it sound old. And so I'm thinking that we'll pick 3 to 4 colors and we'll dye some twisted skeins in one of my steam pans. And I'm planning on dyeing 500 grams of yarn because when the skeins are twisted in the pan, there's space for that. And I'm a little unsure about what colors I want to do. I'm considering using some royal purple and emerald green because I know that where those combine, well, they combine in a very pretty way, not a very muddy way. You get some really beautiful, like almost blues, almost navy colors. And then maybe we'll use Caribbean blue, but I also have electric violet. And so I think we're going to stay in that kind of color realm because those are some of the colors I have the most of. But if you have any requests, that's the nice thing about a live stream, is that while we're working on it, we can edit and change. And so it's during some of the downtimes today while we're waiting for things to heat up or waiting for one step, maybe we'll have a 10-minute wait or a 15-minute wait. That's when I'll go ahead and do these unboxings. But while I have your attention, please subscribe and give the video a thumbs up because that helps YouTube tell people about me. And did they ever send out? I never got on my phone a notification about the stream, which is a little concerning, but there are a number of you here, and so that at least is good. But yeah, I go, and I don't know if one of the softwares that I use had an update. The lighting in here, oh gosh. Side thought, the lighting in here is a little inconsistent because I have a lot of windows in my kitchen, and so when the sun goes behind a cloud, things get dark and then things get overexposed. Is what it is. Yeah, but I don't know if I used OBS as a streaming software, and so I don't know if they had an update or YouTube where it was, but updating the software and restarting the computer a couple times, and we're good. You got the notification? Awesome. Maybe it's because I logged in. Normally, I'm not logged in to ChemKnits on my phone because if I were to log into ChemKnits on my phone, then if I were to log into ChemKnits on my phone, there were some times when I would if I would fall asleep while watching like YouTube or something, my thumb could accidentally add whatever random video I was watching to a ChemKnits playlist. And that was not good. Sometimes, I don't know, like a drama video or like Minecraft like playthrough or whatever it was I was watching. So I have another account that I use on my phone for those purposes. But anyway, uh, let's go and look at the colors that I've mixed and we'll get started. Because I figured it's worth pulling the colors. Oh, funny. I don't need the scissors up there anymore. It's worth pulling the colors before. Oh, good. I do have a notebook over here. Oh, and I have my kitty iPad monitor, so I can try to see the chat. Wait, if I go like, if I put it outside, does it make it makes the chat bigger? Ooh, but it won't stay like that, will it? Maybe the text isn't bigger, but awesome. Got a notification and already in the chat. Woohoo! Okay. At least the chat is like taking up half the iPad screen. Okay, so let's see. I was thinking, I have 2 different dye stocks of emerald green here. So I'm thinking we'll use that. Said I wanted to use royal purple. We have a lot of that one mixed. Caribbean blue, also have a fair amount. Okay, we have some electric violet. I have a lot. I have more of midnight blue than I thought. Guess. I mean, I can keep that aside. I'm more inclined to stick with some of these colors to start with. I have dregs of pecan brown, fawn, I have a little bit of cabernet. I have some deep magenta, and I have some champagne, which is basically nothing. And that's only because champagne is such a pastel color that it doesn't really have much of an impact. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. And bring over my pre-soaking yarn. Alright, so our yarn today is KnitPicks Stroll Fingering Weight yarn. This is, I think, the yarn base I have dyed more of than any other. I've dyed likely thousands of skeins of this colorway at this point. This yarn is 75% superwash merino wool, 25% nylon. And I don't know if it's linked directly in the description, but I did, link to KnitPicks Bare Yarn. The sweater curse, you made your boyfriend a sweater and you gave it to him for Christmas and he's no longer your boyfriend, he's your fiance. Congratulations! That's amazing! Okay, I'm gonna rinse out a steam pan. And let's think about how we're gonna set this up today. This is just an IKEA shower curtain that I use to protect my work surface. And my plan is we'll bring over the electric hot plate, but I figured why not start like this? I'm debating. I think I'm just not gonna squeeze out the yarn. And so I'm gonna start twisting these skeins and layering them in. And the reason why I'm not bothering to wring out much or any of the water from this yarn is that this will give us certainly a non-measured amount of liquid, but if I didn't have liquid, we're going to be adding all the dyes in liquid form here in the pan, but if I didn't have liquid in here at all of the dye would likely soak through the yarn more than what I would like it to do. Now, I also will probably add acid, I think, before we add the first color. But you can see that even with 4 skeins, we have lots of space in here. Adding a 5th skein, I almost could do 6 skeins. All right, that time I did remove some liquid. And if I feel like I want to remove more, which I think I do now, we can do that. Because right now, where we are, the water level is almost above the yarn. And so that's a little higher than what I want. And so there's many ways you could go about removing liquid. I actually have a video where that I just edited where at one point I added more liquid to the pan and then I realized I didn't want that liquid there, so I removed the yarn to then remove more of the liquid. But I think I'm going for a water level that is maybe halfway down the skeins. Eventually, and so when we're heating things, some of the liquid will come off as steam. But also while we're heating things, but also when we're adding dye, we're going to be adding significant amounts of liquid as well. Okay. The thing that's also a little weird is that because like I feel like the water level over here is higher than over there, but I know that that's not entirely true. Certainly the water level is almost feeling to be about the same around the edges, but what's changing is like the yarn is feeling more above the surface. Because I think that what's happening is that as I remove some water, the yarn is compressing a little bit, which is amusing me. Now, I feel like during Hanukkah, I did this with 400 grams of yarn in a pan, not 5. But you could see how I probably could fit one more. But the more yarn you have in here, the more resist that you're going to have with each of the layers. And by that, what I mean is that when we pour the dye on, there's resist where these skeins are touching each other. And so you'll end up with more white after each round, which may be what you want, and it might also not be what you want. And so, yeah. Oh dear, that's my rationale there. Let's see, hot plate. I love this hot plate. Sometimes in videos, and again, this is me referencing a video that I edited like yesterday or something. Sometimes in videos, I will dye yarn on the hot plate, and then at some point I say, okay, I'm going to move it over to the stove. That usually means I'm done with yarn dyeing for the day, and I want to cool off the hot plate so I can put it away. And so that is the reason why I do that. And I'm so like new into the year that I haven't even bothered to try to track down my official diary. If I want to, I can take notes on this little guy. Now, since I have a shower curtain on the counter, I am looking beneath the hot plate because there was one time, I think I had a bubble in the shower curtain and I did melt this particular shower curtain. It's 2 layers, so nothing would go through, but that is just a concern. All right, I'm now going to plug it in. I never plug in an electric hot plate until I'm ready to turn it on because I don't want to accidentally burn myself. And we're going to let things get nice and hot over here. Now, I also happen to have the camera that I use for filming videos over here. This is my Canon EOS 90D. Definitely not sponsored. But I only have this camera here because I am going to film, while working on this, a YouTube short to use for the video recap. A lot of times when I used to stream, I would do a recap I'll have a recap video come out with a finished dry yarn. And those videos never did like that well. So I figured I'll do some kind of time lapse of what we're dyeing today and then show off the finished yarn in the short. And so we'll try that out. And it'll be just like a mini quick recap of what we did today. So that is my plan there. Now the question, which I'm wondering as I have things set up, oh, you can see right here. Okay. The problem that I did not consider is that it's a little nerve-wracking to pour right here when my computer is right there. But maybe I'll just scooch that over before we measure out the liquids we want to do. But I'm going to come and sit back down. And you might be hearing a little bit of sounds because there's some water on the bottom of the pan, and so we're hearing that sizzle a little bit. But actually what I'm also going to do is fill up a water bottle. To have with me while I'm sitting down. I got sick in November with like just a bad chest infection or something, like a chest cold, and I'm still coughing from it. And so that is irksome. All right, we'll do this because there's nothing much to watch. Good question. There's a question in the chat about, was the pre-soak, did it have acid in it? And no, it did not. But that actually reminded me that I did want to add acid, so let's go do that. Oops. There we go. Okay, well that is a little bit annoying as it's heating up, but that's okay. And of course I don't have a cup ready to go with vinegar because New Year, I haven't taken things out yet. Ooh. I use massive jugs of vinegar, and pouring from them is not the easiest. So that's why I transfer vinegar into a small cup and measure from there, because that is easier. All right. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tablespoons of white vinegar. And now I know this hot plate, and I know that therefore things are still very cold, even as we're hearing it heat. Like maybe there's like a hint of warm in one spot, but I'm pushing on this to just sort of distribute that acid a little bit throughout our yarn. Okay, so I did 5 tea vinegar. Cool. But it'll take a while to heat up. And one other thing that I do need to consider with this much yarn in a pan is that when the burners are small, the heat will be mostly concentrated on those middle 3 skeins. And so I might want to wait a little longer so that way the temperature can expand throughout the whole pan, but also keeping track and making sure the edges don't get too hot, making sure things don't dry out. And so those are all things I need to consider. All right. But while we wait, let's go ahead and open up this Paradise Fibers Fiber of the Month Club. And so I've been unboxing this for years, like pre-pandemic years. And there's always, it starts at $34.99 a month, I believe, if you're in the continental US, and shipping is included in that. There's 6 to 8 ounces of fiber, and it's delightful. They put together fun themes, and I never know quite what to expect, but I hear something sort of clinky in here. Ooh. Okay, so from the outside, we see like the stars and stuff. And the first thing I see when I open this up is like a black bag with snowflakes and green. And so, is this going to be like, are we going to get like a nebula kind of thing? Because now I see pink, and this is in a stars and moons bag. I'll remove the fiber briefly. Ooh, a big bag that's purple. I can't tell if it's going to be purple in there. Sometimes they match the colors of the bag to... Ooh! Oh, this is cool. There's a keychain with 3 crochet hooks on it. That's what was jingling. Oh, this is so handy. This isn't something that you would want necessarily if you just crocheted, but to put this on like the outside or have this with like your notions, because then if you drop a stitch, then you quickly have a hook to help like fix it. I love it. I love it. Oh, you know why that was just hanging out? Because my little notions bag couldn't close because it's small. There's one more bag of fiber. All right, we've got some more greens. Oh, interesting. All right, and now I've got our little things. Let's see. The goods. Aha! I was wrong. I should have guessed this. When I was like, oh, maybe it's going to be blurry because I'm out of focus. And of course, I fix that right when I get back in focus. All right. Name is Aurora Borealis. If I'd known, I could have done like that on my fingernails. Love it. Love it. And I love it with the snowflakes now make sense. You have a pack of, oh, the hooks are also really handy for provisional cast-ons. Oh, awesome. You use them in the ridiculous amount of safety pins it takes to basic quilt. I never thought about using a crochet hook to help with the safety pins. But all right. Ooh. Okay, let's open up the fiber and take a look. I do, from where I'm sitting, see some steam. I will rotate that pan in a moment. Ooh. Oh my gosh. This is like my soul. So I think on camera it almost looks navy, but this is just a deep eggplant purple, but it's not a solid. It is a blended fiber, and within here there are purples that are a little bit more pink. There's a little bit of black or navy. I can't really tell, but there's different colors in here. I can't tell, to be honest, if this was a multicolored merino dyed just one color. So if you had, I think that they have a merino that has like gray and white in it. It could be something like that that was dyed one color, because the gray fibers in the blend would pick up the color differently. But let me see if okay, here, yeah, see, you can see some of it almost looks like stripes. It's because of the way it's blended. It is stunning. Stunning, stunning, stunning. Okay, so we have that. And then we have, so that is Purple Emperor Multi-Merino. Then we have Luna Moth Emperor Merino. Okay, and Luna Moth Multi-Merino. I'm therefore now feeling like this is blended versus an over-dyed, also, the reason why I think it could be blended is because of the texture, like after dyeing is the texture of it. I think things would feel a little bit less neat and combed if it was dyed after. But also, this seems to be the same collection. What did I say? This is the Luna Moth. And here you can see that we've got these just subtle shifts of color. When this is spun, it's going to give the color so much dimension. And what's hilarious is that these colors are very much like what we would get if I mix the emerald green and royal purple and dip dye it. And it's funny because it just matches what I was talking about today. Okay, now we have some, oh my God, Cyclamen Tessa Silk, 1/2 ounce in this beautiful, I would call it like a rose pink color. And then we have another 1/2 ounce of Chartreuse Tessa Silk, which is this bright green. And I will say, there are some elements of the Chartreuse in the Luna Moth colorway. So the green isn't just like coming out of nowhere, but this is really, really fun. And they do have a project suggestion. The suggested project is the Alaska hat. Cool. So they're talking about the spin. They spun it first with mostly the purple. It looks like they made Rolags out of this and blended the fibers together using a blending board. So that way, as they work on the hat, they can incorporate more of the other colors into it and sort of give those wisps of color. So Fiber Club members get 15% off of the Paradise Fibers blending boards. And there's a code. And then Active Club members also get 10% off fiber with the code CLUB at checkout. Of course, this was last month, but cool. I don't think I've ever spun from a Rolag before, but I've always eyed the blending boards, and they have some like TikToks and stuff with blending that just seem awesome. All right, let's look at our other extras. We've got an adorable, it almost looks like candy, but this little like green, it may glow in the dark, I don't know, star progress keeper, or sorry, stitch marker. It does glow in the dark. Ha! It's funny, I have some glow in the dark nail polish in my bathroom nail polish wall, and it glows like all night. It's really funny. Okay, oh, I have 2 stickers. I have a feeling that that's an error in my favor, but we have you, Aurora Borealis sticker. Love it. And then some peppermint dash tea. Thank you, Paradise Fibers. This was awesome, and love this. Like, oh my gosh, that's such a handy notion. And I have like a single small crochet hook, but like, here's another look at all the fiber. I have a single little crochet hook, I think, on a keychain, but it's a small one, and so the idea of having 3 sizes without having to dig them out from the bottom of my big notions bag, or because it's a mess in there. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's something I'll just attach to the outside. I have a Birdie Parker strap on the outside of my notions bag that has like a sizing guide for knitting needles. It's got like the holes on it, and that was something that, hey, he didn't give me anything from Birdie Parker this year. Maybe he realized that he's purchased a lot of her accessories for me over the years. I do enjoy stash tea. If there's ever a combo that made you want to learn to spin, that is it. It is a good combo. Now, spinning can be a very inexpensive fiber arts craft to learn. And the reason why I say that is because all you need to get started is a drop spindle. Now, I have not used a drop spindle in close to a decade. Maybe that's something that I should try on stream. Oh my gosh. Using a spinning wheel is a little bit easier, in my opinion, than using a drop spindle. But a spinning wheel takes up more space and is more expensive. And so using a drop spindle, which I think there's a lot of options around like the $20 range, using a drop spindle can get you can have the feel if you enjoy the process. It teaches you a lot about drafting your fiber, because you can still spin very thin, but because you have the weight of the drop spindle on the fiber, if you draft too much, the fibers will sort of come apart entirely and breaking it. So the weight gives a tension that's different from the tension that you have on a wheel. And so that's just interesting. Happy New Year! All right, but let's go back and check on our yarn. Because I see some steam, but I also have a feeling. So it's on the side with the larger burner. That corner is super cold. So we've got a lot of warmth there, probably a little bit here. And this is when the 2 things that I do at the stage when we get started, move the water around by tilting the pan and then rotating the pan. Those corners still feel a little chilly. Where are... Okay, I've got a spoon. And I've got tongs, and I can just sort of move things around a little bit. Now, one thing that maybe I'll get ready now, and it's a little bit less fun to use it on stream, but I think what I'm going to do, we've got some foil. And the reason for this is to help warm up everything in here. because yes, we have things steaming, but this is going to trap the steam within the pan. And so because it's then not evaporating and we're having that warm air sort of more trapped in here, that's going to help warm everything up a little bit more evenly. Okay, I set a timer. We're going to sit down before we think more about colors. Ooh, let's see. So we have a 3D printer. I have never asked Keith to print parts for me. So I would say that if you are a person who is handy and have some engineering skills, then, and honestly, your local library might have free 3D printing time that you can use as well. So you can get like things to make a 3D printed like small wheel, but there can be some troubleshooting involved with anything that you're 3D printing. So you can't spin on a drop spindle for anything, but you have no problem with a wheel. Yeah, so if you're not good with a drop spindle, you don't need to, don't take that as a mean that you don't need a wheel. But if you want to see if you like the creation of anything, then it's worth it. The first time I tried spinning on a drop spindle, I quit. I think I have a blog post about it on ChemKnits.com. I tried spinning with the wheel, or sorry, spinning with a drop spindle, and the reason why I was struggling was that I was not drafting things enough. Things were way too thick, and so therefore I wasn't able to hold any twist. And so I let it sit on the shelf for a while, and then sort of came back to it and tried again. But let's start opening up some of these KnitPicks packages. And okay, I have a clean popcorn bucket to put stuff in. Ooh. Hopefully nothing is missing, and hopefully nothing is too dirty. Okay, let's see. One skein of Bare Swish Roving. This is so soft. So swaft. This is 100% superwash merino. I think, likely from the name, the same merino that is used in the Swish line, which is another of my favorites. We have another single little thing. These are all packages that I ordered on Black Friday or the big sale. All right, we've got another Swish Roving. Why these are coming in their own little individual package versus, I don't know. I have a feeling that what happens here is that the warehouse gets an order and then they are told, okay, a certain volume can fit in a bag. And so therefore, then they have to send another package. I don't know. They definitely seem to be using, these two boxes are also KnitPicks. They definitely seem to be using bags and boxes that are closer to the volume of items, which means that they're not getting as crushed as they used to. Okay, what do we have here? Best way, multiple carriers. All right. It's still a little odd. Okay. We've got a bag of Stroll Fingering Weight yarn. This is the yarn that I am dyeing right now. And I ordered everything through the retail website. I am also a wholesale customer with them, but it didn't seem to be linked. It didn't seem to be worth it because I think the max wholesale discount is now 35%, and they had like big coupons on the website that was like just about as good of a deal. But all right, here's another package, and I feel like I opened this one briefly because the bottom, oh no, I didn't. I don't think I opened it. This one may have been opened a little bit, but we're upside down. Ooh, we've got a bunch of stuff. Ooh. Ooh, I have a feeling, I don't know which sale I bought this, but this is the upcycled alpaca blend. This is 33% alpaca, 34% wool. Pretty. I must have bought this to do some over dyeing. This is really pretty. I don't think that this is a, I think this is a new to me blend. Wait, did I say it's 33% alpaca, 34% wool, 33% acrylic. It's very soft. I also got, is it Simply Wool? Yeah, Simply Wool Twist, Wallace and Wanda. Don't remember buying it. Could this have been, there's not prices on there. Oh, this could have been the 135 day. And is this from, oh, this is from crochet.com. Oh, ooh, goody. I think this is their travel thing. Oh, cute. There's a little notepad in here. It's a crochet project planner. Oh, they're sticky notes. Name, source, size made for so-and-so, measurements, notes, yarn, hook, size, date started, yarn purchase, date complete. Interesting. I don't know what, I guess you could put this like on a project bag, or if you've printed out a pattern, you could put this on the pattern, or I suppose you could put it on the front of a book. There are some little progress keepers. Aha! Foldable scissors, super handy, and a little tape measure. I think that this was a freebie at one point. I don't remember if I got it as a freebie or if I bought it so that way I could unbox it. But some of these unboxings went quiet because I was coughing so much. All right, I got 2 skeins of Luminance. This is 100% silk lace weight yarn. That's just going to go on my lap. Stroll Sport. 2 skeins of Stroll Sport. All right. And let's see, we've got 4 hanks of Swish roving that I've shown before. And it's funny, there's some tape on the other side, and so I'd say we have this much loss from the tape, but ultimately that's not that bad. Now, why would I get this? Tiger Eye, Stroll hand painted. Must have been on sale, and maybe because, I mean, this is going to be a fun thing to over dye to see what we can do to it. And so I think that it's funny. I don't know sometimes when I open things like a long time later what I want and why, but it's fun. I did set a timer so that way we can go back and check in on our yarn. But also, thankfully, especially because it's been so long since these arrived, everything is accounted for. But we can check on, I mean, I can see the steam from here. But yeah. All right, we'll deal with the big boxes, which are likely just Stroll, if I had to guess. But there might be something else I ordered that I don't remember. But I think these were my big, like 25% off site-wide sale. Or actually, they also like sent me a coupon, like just for me. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because I had an abandoned cart and I got a coupon or what, but I had a coupon that like stacked. I was able to use while like the big sale was still going on, which felt very lucky. All right, but let's go play with yarn. Because I want to play with color, and I feel like it's been a while. But it takes a while for things to keep up. So, and to get started, and honestly, this is what a day of dyeing can be like for me. Okay. Good. Everything is warm. I'm going to reduce the heat, and we're going to find gloves. I did get a comment once on one of my videos, and if you're watching, I'm really glad you said this because that allows me to sort of point out something that I do. Sometimes in videos, I take off gloves and I get a new pair. Usually when I do that, I'm setting the washed ones aside to use in another video. Sometimes if a glove is particularly messy, I may not save it, but normally I try to save the gloves and use them multiple times. But in one day of dyeing, I might use multiple different pairs of gloves just because if my hands sweat, I can't get my hands back in them. And when I'm using dry dye powders, when I say I want to make sure my gloves are clean and dry before the next one, I go and I wash off the gloves at the sink and then dry my hands. And so that is something that I wanted to share. Okay, let's see. So the 3 colors, I think we're going to start with Royal Purple. And the reason why we're going to start with Royal Purple is that it's one that strikes a little bit faster. I do plan to use Emerald Green, but I know that that one takes more time and has more spread to it. And so I have a feeling that one is one that might go second. Because one concern I have is that if it's a dye that still is going to be in the water, when I remove yarn and to retwist, there could be some dye in the water, and then more of that could go onto one of the skeins, causing some differences. But that is what it is, so we can just deal with that. All right. Let's see. I think I want to do, let's do 200 grams. Let's do 200 milliliters of Royal Purple. Ooh, I did just get another idea. Okay, I am measuring twice. Normally I don't recommend that. Normally I would recommend measuring once if you can, but it did occur to me this might be adding a lot of water volume, but you know what? We'll see. We'll add all 200 milliliters into this container I have right here. I'm going to fill this up with water, so we have a liter of water, while I also rinse out this cup. Oh dear. Approximately 1 liter of water. And you can see I might get a little more water. It foamed up a little bit. I'm not sure if that's entirely on camera. Let's just get a little more water. So the concerns going through my brain right now is that I want to have enough water to spread the color out on top of all the yarn. But I also don't want so much color that when I add it, I don't want the color to be so concentrated that maybe it'll strike in a way and I can't get the coverage because maybe I don't spread it out well enough. So we will see. But 200 ml Royal Purple in 1 liter. Okay, and now I'm going to turn on camera 2. Okay. And that is recording. And let's see how this goes. And so I can pour some on. Okay. I think that this is working. This is giving us a nice dark purple. But don't forget, we will presumably have whites left behind. And that's okay. That's why the skeins are twisted. But even if we don't have a lot of white left behind, we'll have these other colors that, depending on how much color, how much this purple soaks in, we can either add other colors on like a portion of the skein versus going all over, or do something else. But now we basically just wait. One thing in theory you could do is you could come and press down on the yarn if you want to distribute that color in more. And I'm not exactly doing that. I am going to poke a couple of spots that are sticking out just for consistency. But I can see here, oh, I got an ad. Well, that was unfortunate. I didn't know an ad would be coming up. Thanks, YouTube. But I can see in an area like right here, which maybe isn't going to show up on camera, that there is a darker area and then some lighter area, and even over there. So if I were to check, there's a fair amount of color right now. But I guess I can turn up the heat a little bit more again. And we'll give this, I think, 10 minutes. And we'll see where we are then. And as much as I don't want to do this, I'm going to cover it. And the reason why I'm covering it is, again, to trap that heat. We had things warm, but then we just added a liter of cold water to our dye bath. And so that reduced the temperature that we have. And so things are going to take time to warm up again. And we'll see, I guess, where we are. Now, if I need to, we can get a yarn mop. And so I can remove this yarn, add a yarn mop in to help soak up color. Because when yarn is twisted like what we have in here, it can take longer to absorb the dye. And so sometimes things just take a little bit longer overall. And yeah, feel free to let me know if you guys have any questions about the yarn dyeing process or really anything in chat. Ooh, things I feel like got a lot darker. Let me see. Figure this video. Brightness. Cool. Here we go. I love purple. For sure. And so maybe, no promises. Especially because it was one of the last things I did in July before everything went bad. But maybe I'm almost ready to schedule another mystery surprise live stream. Actually, the picker wheel that I use when I do those live streams, I used for New Year's with my family. Everybody gave like a list of things that they wanted to do for New Year's because we all ended up with strep throat. And so we canceled just out of precaution New Year's plans. We were fairly asymptomatic. It's amazing that we caught it. And so yeah. Oh man, but the we wrote down a list of things that everybody wanted to do, which involved like a certain puzzle, a new Lego set, a board game, making a recipe, baking something sweet. Like we made this whole list of things and then we put it in a picker wheel, but I hid what the inputs were. And so we could like spin the wheel and then do an activity. And so that was really fun. That was really, really fun. All right. You got Big Daddy here. Or Big Mama. Let's see. But then also right before the holidays, my power went out for 2 days, which was interesting and stressful. And so because the power was out, then like that was another reason why I couldn't do anything. Oh man. Okay, I have an open bag here with 6 skeins of stroll. Then I have a full bag. I have a full 1, 2, 3 bags of Swish DK. Okay, so that's good. 4 bags of Swish DK. All right. But we have, ooh, what is this? Oh, that is pretty. Oh, I almost don't want to over dye this. This is like, how is this? Is it the twist? I don't think it's even the twist. I think this is like chain plied. Okay, this is Caterpillar sport weight yarn in the color Swallowtail. What is this? 59% cotton, 43% merino wool.
This is just, is this only 50 grams? Darn. This is stunning. Oh, it's busy, but it's like, you know, like a complex I-cord. Oh, and it like alternates color. That's cool. That's a yarn base I hadn't felt before. Okay, well, the good news is everything I've received is what is supposed to be in here. Okay, I got it in another color too. Ooh, fun. Okay. I think I got these to over dye, but I might need to turn them into something because I got it in the color Clouded Silver as well. This is not quite what I expected the construction to look like because it's so regular. It had to have been like thread that was dyed very variegated, but in a way that, like, on this one, the light section is a gray, lighter than the dark gray in here, but maybe, I can't tell if it's the same or deeper than the light gray. But then there's like a navy and a black in there. It's super pretty. And I got Impressionist Sport Weight. This is a very unique, it's a yarn with a halo, and it's spun very loose, but the halo comes out, and so that's interesting. This one is 80% merino, 20% nylon, but the construction of it is mega unique. Oh, that's cool. All right, now I have to bet you'd go immediately for a toque for those two. Yeah. Oh, man. Now I have to have a feeling that there's going to be 4 lone skeins of Stroll in here. Call it a hunch. It's great when you can peel off the tape on a yarn order, and so therefore you don't have to, ooh, you scissors. All right, so we do have some plastic. Now, I absolutely check to ship my yarn in a plastic bag, and they did not. Okay, but we have one full bag, I think, that's split open, unfortunately, which is funny because I didn't cut it open, but there's a split in there. The yarn doesn't seem to be damaged. I think the bag just split. So that's one full bag. 2 full bags, good. I like the full bags because I can stack them. And when I have these yarn skeins just without the bag, then they sort of flop all over the place, and I can't fill my thing. Okay, so that was 2, 3, 4 bags of Stroll. There's something awesome in neon in there. Is there a packing slip? Yes. Okay, 44 skeins of Stroll. See, this must have been all one order. Okay, you got our 4 loose ones, which I can kind of pop into the bag that had 6, but you'll see how it's just not the same. Right? But what's sad here is, if you think about it, their system told them to pack the yarn this way. They absolutely could have fit a bag of 10 in one more bag of 10 in either one of these boxes. But the warehouse ripped open a bag to like pack things this way. Now, I don't think it's entirely fair to say it's the warehouse's fault. I think that this is a fault of whatever algorithm they use to tell the warehouse what size box to use and what yarn to put in what box. Toque? Did I say it wrong? I say a lot of things wrong. Ooh, okay, these are some yarn bases that seem to be new. Fluff of the Andes. This is a super bulky weight, 100% Highland wool, single ply yarn. 109 yards to 200 grams. These balls are huge and fluffy. It's a little bit of a bummer that it's in a ball form, but it does feel like this is an opportunity to, say, knit a hat and then dye it after it's knit, because it's already in a ball. And then the final thing is, I forgot all about this. This is Y2K. I had a New Year's party for that. This is the color I love that. And I'm not going to say it the other way. I'm not going to do it. Although we were doing that in the car the other night. Okay, so Keith and I have, like, the commercial we probably quote the most is IDK, my BFF Jill. And I think it was maybe some cell phone commercial. I don't remember, but it was just like the parents were upset about like a massive overcharge for a lot of texts. It must have been like for an unlimited texting plan or something. And they're like, who? And she kept replying in text speak to like, you know, like to her parents. And they asked her if she was texting and just like, IDK, my BFF Jill. And so we say that all the time. Um, but yeah, let me turn off that timer. And so this was a new yarn line and Y2K, and I thought I don't know, it's both a fun candidate for an overdying project because it's neon and maybe you have a neon green colorway and we want to turn it into something else. We can try to do that at some point. But I also liked it and I wanted to feel it. So this is a chain ply construction. It's not very round per se, but look at how bouncy it is. So like I'm holding it there and it's sort of like, it's got a lot of like bounce to it. This is 93% superfine alpaca, 7% nylon. This is soft. Oh man. Oh, I guess I only have 50 grams. If I weren't already making Ryder a hat, this would be like a perfect hat to make him. I just unpacked the memory for you with the IDK, my BFF Jill. Oh my gosh. It's just like, because like if one of us says IDK, the other one will go like my BFF Jill. And I think that commercial was at the time, it was in the early days of Hulu. And so when you were watching a show, there would be maybe 3 or 4 commercial breaks throughout the whole thing. But each commercial break had the exact same commercial. So you would see that commercial 4 times in one episode because there weren't that many commercials sponsoring or advertising on these online platforms yet. And so you would get the exact same ad over and over and over. And so, yeah, I think that's another reason why that's one that stuck with us. But it's just funny because we were talking about that the other night or 2 nights ago in the car, and then how I think that probably the most quoted line from any commercial is probably "What's up." But we were both like fairly young when that happened, so. But anyway, let's go back to the yarn.
Because the timer went off. And it does not matter that I did not prep a yarn mop for us today. Because clearly I have some yarn that arrived. But what I can say right now, I can tell all of you, is that right here, I see pink. And so most of the color has bound to our yarn. If I stick a spoon in, that's very, very little color left. I am going to grab another skein of Stroll to use as a yarn mop. And this skein of Stroll is just dry. But the way I'm going to do this, sort of, I added a zip tie to it. I'm going to just put it over behind my neck. We are going to start removing the yarn, and I pick it up and look at that almost glaze that we have. Oh, we have so much white in here. It is awesome. This time as I'm removing the yarn, I am going to squeeze it out a bit. Which is funny, this time as I'm removing. It's really only from when I removed the yarn from the pre-soak that we did not do that. But you can see that gorgeous, gorgeous resist. And how we have patches in here that have a lot of color, some with a little bit less. But now that we have space here in the pan, I'm going to bring over the yarn mop and just add her in. We can start this is actually going to help for two different reasons. One, we're going to soak up some of the liquid, and two, we're going to soak up a little bit of that excess dye. So that way when we start, the first skeins we put in to start retwisting, like we definitely have examples of pastel purple in here, but the first skeins we put back in aren't going to immediately soak up that little bit of color because we've soaked it up on our mop already. So you'll notice that like I squeeze with the tongs as I go down, but then I wrap the yarn around because that helps me squeeze out a little bit more liquid. And so that's just the way, but also squeezing it. Ooh, and here you can see a very large patch of color that didn't get any dye, which is fine. Twisting skeins to dye them gives you a more random overall technique, which can be fun. And certainly at some point you can add the yarn in and do something more all over. It's just with 500 grams of yarn in the pan at a time, it starts to get a little harder to do something with that kind of volume. But so, chat, now I have to ask you, what should I do? What should I do? Should we do? Because if we had very little white left, then my plan for the next layer was to twist and do the emerald green sort of on one half and the Caribbean blue on the other. But that isn't something that we need to do in that way. I think I will do the emerald green next. We'll do the emerald green, we'll do that all over, and then we'll evaluate if we want the Caribbean blue on part. And if we want the Caribbean blue only on part, then maybe I'll bring out the electric violet or something for the other side. It'll be very similar to royal purple, but just a hair different. But you guys can let me know what you think. This is one of those, oh, I see it was up. It's funny.
Oh no, I wanted this one.
It's funny because you get a sense when I do these live streams that like there is this amount of downtime while I'm filming one of these videos. But if I'm doing a video that isn't like a Patreon behind the scenes live stream or something where I'm using the hot plate, in those 10 minutes in the middle, I'm likely working on something on the stove. And so a lot of times when I have a day of yarn dyeing, I'm filming 2 or 3 videos at once and sort of alternating between the videos as I'm filming. It depends. Sometimes something is a lot more hands-on, so I can't like alternate. But what's funny is that occasionally I lose a video clip and I'm like, I swear there was a clip of me washing this, and I try to find it, and then later I find it in another folder. Because when I take all the raw clips, I try to sort them into a folder that is the like a rough draft, not even full title, just like a placeholder description of what the video is. So for this one, if I were to be filming everything in the way I was going to do this, well, I would probably call this one like Twisted Skeins Livestream TikTok is probably what I would call the folder, and then pop everything in there. And that way, when I go to edit, in theory, everything is in one place. But sometimes I make a mistake. But hello, yes, we are here. You love on the fly dyeing? Yeah, it's a lot of fun to just sort of decide as I go along. And when I'm streaming, I try to share like this thought process. You're astounded I can keep track of it all. I mean, it helps that things are recorded. And so sometimes if I don't know, if I can't tell from the like auto-generated thumbnail when looking at the clips, if I don't know which video it is, then I can open it and play it and then maybe see, but occasionally I make sense. Am I dyeing for a major project for myself? Right now, no. This yarn is headed towards my shop. I have 2 videos in progress that were things I dyed for myself. One of them was a knit along that I guess the project hibernated because I wasn't able to keep up, and so I have to finish that. That's probably almost done. I dyed a bunch of tonals. I think I needed 4 colors for the project. I dyed 6 different tonals for it, and then I was doing the knitting, and so at some point I will have a video where I show the dyeing and then what I made out of the yarn. There's another project that is a hat for writer that I keep getting either distracted or when we're watching a movie I'm not interested in, when we're like hanging out with my in-laws, and then everyone turns out all the lights, and so then I can't knit. And yes, so therefore that has not had, like, in theory I should be able to finish this hat in a day. Like, I can knit a hat in a day, but it's been a long time. His birthday's in like 9 days. Okay, new goal. I should finish the hat in time for his birthday. Crap. Ooh, okay, so you ice dyed cotton yarn and you ordered wool to dye. Are you gonna tie-dye and Dawn, are you going to be using, are you going to do ice dyeing on the wool yarn, or yeah, if that's your plan, so you don't need to use full 5% distilled vinegar. Like, you dilute it. Like, you don't need it to be like just straight vinegar. If you're doing ice dyeing, I would recommend doing a pre-soak in, a lot of times I start with a ratio of 8 cups of water and 2 tablespoons of white vinegar using a 5% vinegar. But for ice dyeing or snow dyeing, when you're adding more liquid, I would conceivably add citric acid powder with the dyes sort of on the top, so that way you're adding more acid as things drip down. In theory, that's the way I would do it. But I don't know if I've done ice. Oh no, I've done ice dyeing with acid dyes outside. I don't think I've done snow dyeing with acid dyes, mainly because of the mess and the drips. We might get snow this weekend, so there could be some snow dyeing. Okay, so yeah, if you're gonna do ice dyeing, I might soak the yarn in a couple tablespoons of vinegar. But then if you have access to citric acid powder, I would also include some of that, like, on the surface. But you can also, in the end, add vinegar to the yarn, like add more vinegar to it if you see that too much of the dye is sort of dripping through. So you also have that as a choice. This isn't a resolution, but this is more of a, when I'm streaming, I need to try to hydrate. My pleasure. I am happy to answer questions. You've done, no, I've definitely done snow dyeing, but I don't think I've done snow dyeing with acid dyes. I think I've done it with Kool-Aid and with food coloring. No, but I realized I did do an ice dyeing project from a Paradise Fibers kit on some fiber once, and that was outside, because, yeah, I was just worried about the mess. And if I'm worried about mess with the project, I do it outside. But the problem is that with snow dyeing, it's cold outside, and so therefore that is harder. But I'm a little tempted. Because we have one. The question is, do I worry about acid dyes potentially staining the tub? And I do. But food coloring also stains, so that is a consideration. But oh, I don't think I set a timer, and we totally can go and work on the new stuff right now. See, I get distracted. I'm gonna need another little pan. All right, here's another hot tip. If you use these aluminum pans, like I do when you're dyeing yarn, I use these because they can hold hot water, or sorry, like hot yarn and not like melt or anything. I worry about those plastic basins I have melting, but the thing you need to keep in mind is that they can develop holes, because aluminum will degrade with acid. So this is quite lovely. There's like, it definitely broke. We've got pinks and purples in here with our yarn mop. And there might be a hint more color in the pan, But I don't know if some of that is some of the old staining from days of yore. Days of old. All right. I am not specifically moving where the zip tie is for this particular round. But I am trying to make sure that we have white exposed, especially if I see some large unexposed or undyed patches of white. If I can shift the skein a little bit so some of that inside yarn is a little more on the outside so we can get some color there, then that is a win. Now you might also notice that I'm getting some sort of like flippy spots in here, and that's okay. That just adds a little bit of different resist. Now, as for the differences between this as a technique and say a technique where I dye just like the skeins sort of twisted like I would store them multiple times in a row, the kind of colorways you get are very, very similar, but you'll notice that here, rather than doing it in a kettle, I'm adding the yarn into a pan, and so that can provide a little bit of just some difference because it makes it, if you're dyeing yarn in a kettle, I couldn't add one color to half of it and a second color to the other side, which isn't necessarily what I'm doing here yet. I'm adding the color all over. So for adding the color all over, doing it in a kettle is extremely similar. But if I want to add multiple different colors, I can. If I want to add speckles, I can. And I have exposure to different spots of color on here. So dyeing twisted skeins, you could hand paint this with dry dye powder and use that as a way to break up the colors. And so you have multiple different options as you're working on the project, which I think is just fun. This gives a little more flexibility, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay. I think I just want to use, forgot to add the little bit of extra dye that I had from the last round to our yarn mop, but that's okay. We can do that next. And so what I'm using in my head as a rough estimate almost is that because we have 500 grams of yarn in here, that means that we have 500 grams of yarn. I don't want to use more than 500 somethings. I don't want to use a lot more than 500 milliliters of a 1% dye stock solution, because if I were to use a lot more, then it might be harder for some of those colors to strike. So I'm aiming for maybe around 500 milliliters. Okay, and so what we have here this time is this container only had maybe 50 milliliters of emerald green. I want to do 100 milliliters, I think. But I do now have a dye stock bottle that does need to be rinsed out. And so once again, I'm going to add the dye that I just measured out to a container. And so I've got okay, so we've got that in 1 liter. And I do want to stir this up gently. And so I'm diluting this dye again so we can spread it out. If I were to take, and actually I'll show this, we have a little bit of color in this cup. I'm going to add water to it. And now this color is not super intense. It's very light compared to the other color. But if I were to just take the dye as 100 milliliters and try to pour it on you can kind of see that I only was able to get color over this small area. And if it was as concentrated as a 1% dye stock is, that would have been a lot of color there, and then not a lot of the color all over the yarn. So by diluting the dye, when I'm adding it on, this is allowing me to spread it out over the yarn. And so the volume that you're using to add your dye only really matters because of how you want to spread it. And so it matters for the technique, because either way I would have added all the yarn, all the dye to the yarn. It's just in one of the ways that I was talking about, we would have ended up with, in one of the examples I was giving you, we would have ended up with a lot of color in one spot. So if we're gonna, in the next round, only do Caribbean blue on half of the yarn, I might still dilute it, but not quite as much as I've diluted the first two colors. But I've picked colors for this project based on knowing how some of these colors combine, but also wanting to use up some of these dye stocks that I have. Because if I'm doing something like Hanukkah and I'm using a lot of the same colors for, say, breaking a combination of royal purple and emerald green, the two colors we have right here, I am going to make a dye stock so that way I can measure out the total amount of dye I need and don't have to keep weighing out dye and mixing it. Whereas if I'm just dyeing 3 skeins of yarn, I might be more inclined to, instead of making a dye stock, take the total amount of dye I want and dissolve it in a random amount of liquid. But the more you dye yarn, the more you'll figure out what works best for you and what you prefer. I still have the heat on to make it all the way high. It wasn't quite all the way high. Wait, why is that not charging? That's annoying. Now that the iPad is charging. But just for reference for later, we have a fair amount of color in here. But we also have, I can see from the surface, it might be harder, I think, on camera to see. You might not be aware that if it's the light or not, but I can see tonal variation of the greens from just the surface here. But I will cover it. And one of these days, I'll just buy pans with lids, but that's a future Rebecca issue, right? Current Rebecca is knocking, thankfully, empty containers just on the ground. One other reason for using a little bit less emerald green in our project today is that it's a color that takes more time to strike to our yarn. And so that's just something that I need to have under like consideration. And I would like to set a timer. Okay, I'm going to give us this 10 minutes. But I'll be honest, in my videos, when I say I do something over 10 minutes, 10 minutes can mean a lot of different things. 10 minutes can mean, 10 minutes can mean 8 minutes, it can mean 12 minutes, it can mean 45 minutes if I forget to set a timer. So,
there are things there. You guys start in a crock pot to keep a warm setting. Ooh, that's a cool idea. I should buy a crock pot. You know what I bought recently, as I am out of focus and need to fix this because I'm irritated by it. Oh no, I don't want to zoom. That's not what I was doing. I wanted to put it to focus. I bought like a handheld steamer thing that at some point I think I'll use to dye yarn, and probably like countertop speckles or something, and I'll use that to just apply some heat but without a lot of liquid, and so I might try that at some point. You have the same tinfoil lid for your dye pot for a couple years. Yeah, and so I keep the same tinfoil lids until I get but sometimes I'll do a project and there'll be dye on it, and then I rinse and recycle it and then use another one. Could I lay down the shower curtain in the tub? That's an idea. That's an idea. And so, like, because we have a tub that basically is only a drying rack. And, but I still, like, even though, like, if we were ever to move and sell the house, that tub would get ripped out instantly. So I shouldn't necessarily worry about it, but I do. I don't want to, like, stain things, you know? Garage sale $5. No, I should check savers and stuff. I mean, the only reason why I would conceivably get I would conceivably buy something new, like a crock pot for dyeing yarn, is that crock pots I think aren't that expensive. And also, if I'm using it for filming, I want to make sure that it works, you know? I want to know that it works, and that if things aren't working as I expected, then yeah. Okay, so yeah, I can get a crock pot for $30. 35 maybe. I mean, there's certainly expensive ones, but there's some decent, like, large looking ones. Also, I suppose, so we have an Instapot, which I've never used, not in under the pressure setting, but we also still have like a crock pot rice maker that I use still when I want rice. I haven't tried making rice in the Instapot. And so if you have an Instapot and you've made rice in it, let me know what you thought. But we do have some really, really great secondhand shops around here. It's where I got some of the glassware that I use in videos, glass measuring cups. But the dye pots I did buy those brand new when I got started for a similar reason, that I wanted to, for filming, start with something that's a little nicer, which is also a little silly for me to say because my stove is a mess. So, you know, yeah. But yeah, having a shower curtain on the bottom of the tub to help, because sometimes I'll set up the ice dyeing. I'll use like I think it's from the dollar store, like a kitty litter tray, so it's big. I also honestly could buy a wider, I should buy a plastic under the bed storage container that is larger than the dimensions of the cookie sheet I use for snow dyeing to have things raised up. And then I could use that for a number of different things. There's actually, with the cold process dyeing, I think that and now I can't remember where I first got, who first inspired me, which is making me sad. But I can't remember. But they used like under the bed storage containers for their hand painting. So that way, you know how the yarn has to be a little scrunched in that pan? They could have the yarn like flat and sort of, I mean, just they could have the yarn laid out like in a very neat, flat, non-scrunched way. Which is funny because even when I'm doing countertop dyeing, I tend to scrunch it, but that's because I'm not trying to get anything that's like super regular or repeating. That's not my personal style. But then you have that length and you can dye all your yarn there, let it sit overnight, that's hand painted, and then microwave it the next day. And he had like a dedicated dye microwave. And I thought that was a super cool concept. But yeah, there was a point when I thought I was going to do so much yarn dyeing outside because, oh, is my phone's about to die. Uh, that's not good. I don't have a charger down here. Excuse me for a minute. Find a purse. I realized, I'm like, I have an external battery in my purse. And it's because this is an old phone. It was at 2%. So this way I can move around the house and be plugged in. Wouldn't recommend cooking rice in an Instant Pot. You can hear it can be inconsistent. I've had overall a really good experience with the Instant Pot, except there was one time when it took like forever to pressurize. And so therefore, and I was making, so I haven't made straight rice. What I was making was a dish that had rice in it. It had like rice, pulled chicken, some veggies. It was like an Italian rice concoction. Which the first time I made it was really good, but this time, because it took so long for the pot to pressurize, it got way too much heat, and so therefore things were way overcooked. Like, it was just mush. It was gruel. It was not like recognizable as what it was anymore. And I don't know if that ended because otherwise I was, for a while, I was using it like weekly. And so therefore I stopped using it for a little bit. But we did a lot of like pulled chicken and stuff for a while. Okay, so what, 1-to-1 rice to water, high pressure for 4 minutes, then release. Yeah, I feel like sometimes rice instructions seem to have like way more water than I think actually is needed, which feels odd to me. Um, because like I was like, this is coming out like way too wet. I should reduce. But you also need to wash the rice thoroughly. I have been better about washing rice. I think that that makes a difference for the overall texture. But then I'm always unsure like how much water to add after that. Um, we don't make rice a ton, but yeah, we ordered from my favorite Chinese restaurant. Maybe it was last week or something, and I forgot to add rice to the order, which was like my fault. But I had like not even shrimp and lobster sauce. I had just the lobster sauce, and I really wanted rice with it, and so then I like last minute was making rice. You're Japanese, so dedicated rice cooker all the way. Okay. Um, uh, Sam, I don't know, and I can check now. Why don't we go and look? Um, wait, what are all those things? Yeah. I was like, okay, there's a luxury yarn sale, but they had this. Look at that! Blocking mats with grids. I don't have those. Karen blocking sale. Oh wait, those are the blocking mats I have. Premium blocking mats. I do not need more blocking mats. See, this is the crochet hook I have. It is double-sided, but the new one I got has me excited. Okay, we will check that in a minute. I think I'm going to want to give this a little more time. The water is clearing. We still have a ton of green in here. Even though I'm not filming this for the TikTok, I'm going to add more acid. 2, 3, 4. Okay. We're going to give it, I'm going to go ahead and give it another 10 minutes. I know not all that green will absorb, but that was one thing I did forget that I like to do with these projects sometimes. And that is, when I'm doing this kind of dyeing, I often will add acid to the water with the dye, so then I'm not diluting the amount of acid too much.
Oh my gosh. That sink sounds amazing. Okay, let's
Go to the web browsing. Although I guess I don't know why I thought it would be there. Bear down your own. So sometimes when something is sold out, okay. Of course I'm blanking on the name, but let's just look for. Okay. Because sometimes when you search for something that's sold out, then it might not show up. What was that yarn called? Okay. Eco alpaca. Aha, here it is. Eco Superwash Alpaca Sock Yarn. So it's not available, but it is still there, Sam. I don't think it's sold out. It doesn't have a date for Notify Me, but that might be coming. I have a feeling because now if we were to go and search for Eco, see how it doesn't show up here? And the reason why it's not showing up is because it's out of stock. And so when you do a search, things that are out of stock don't show up. And that can be, thanks to him, I had just figured it out. That can be very disconcerting. Like there was a time when I'm like, wait, did they discontinue Stroll? Like it's not showing up, but it is there. You're currently knitting with the Overgrowth Other Colorway. Yay! Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, the Eco Superwash yarn is super, super fun. And I think anytime something shows up like as not available or Notify Me, I think that just means that it's sold out. And so, and I mean, I suppose like there are yarns that in theory, like Paragon, I always think would be done. But I guess if there's sale, sometimes with yarn, sometimes if you go to clearance yarn, some of these will say goodbye. Which I'm not seeing, but if something's going to go away, it used to say, yeah, fine, it's not. Oh
no, that's not the camera I wanted.
Yeah, in theory, it should say goodbye if it was going to be gone forever. And I think that that base is a popular one, so. You're allergic to wool and you're crocheting socks for your husband, and so you want to dye and crochet your own. Yes, so then that Eco Alpaca yarn would be a great one for it. If you are concerned that it might not be reordered, and because there's not an estimated delivery time, you can always call KnitPicks customer service and they can check, and sometimes they can see if if they're expecting to get more in. Because they can certainly see inventory. There was one time when I desperately needed Stroll. It had been out of stock for months and I was getting nervous. And then there was a date when it was supposed to come back and then it didn't. The date changed and then it was past that date. So then I called and asked about it. And so, yeah, I got nervous. But yeah, I guess if we ever redo our, I'm totally changing gears now. So I was thinking again about crock pots and microwaves. I think if we're ever going to redo our kitchen and do a remodel, because then I would be without a kitchen for a while, then I probably would do a lot of yarn dyeing outside. And I would probably get a crock pot for dyeing, and I would probably get a microwave to have out there. So our microwave, it's not completely broken, but the handle broke off. And some of the buttons don't work. Like the add 30 seconds button doesn't work. But I've been hesitant to replace it. Microwaves aren't expensive, but with a built-in microwave, like you need to find one that's the right dimensions. Like we can't replace it ourselves. We have to have someone install it. And since it still technically works and we don't use it that much, I'm hesitant to actually replace it. But I told Keith, I was like, if it does die, then we can buy like an inexpensive countertop microwave, which we can use until we replace it, and then that can become a ChemKnits microwave. And so that is my plan. Because with acid dyes, you can microwave them. Like a lot, like Jacquard and Dharma have microwave instructions with their dyes. But I'm not going to use commercial dyes in a microwave that goes above my head because I can't clean it as easily, and I just, I will use the stove because the stove I can clean, and when you're like cooking, if something falls on the stove, like I throw it away. And so, yeah, I would not like to use, I would like to have a dedicated dyeing microwave to then explore that. Which, if that is something as a heat source people really, really want to see, then maybe I'll have to go and do that sooner. I just need a spot to store it, and storage space is a issue. You ordered your microwave from Wayfair. Your dad helped with installing. So Keith is very, very handy with installing things. And there's like, yeah, he has some like reasonable carpentry skills. He made, so when the summer after we graduated college, I moved into the fraternity, and it had like a lofted bed, and the way people got up there previously was climbing on top of a desk, then a dresser, and sort of hopping up, and I was like, not gonna happen. And so he made me a ladder, that not only was it a ladder, but had a notch at the top so it would like attach to the loft, but that the steps were, because it was at an angle, and the steps were level with the floor at the angle that it was. And I was, 22 and super impressed. I was super impressed. Not that we have saws or anything that here, but he does have some skills, and also like, just like I can trust him to like change out like light switches and things like that. He has he for like his research and stuff, he's done a lot of stuff with like wiring and whatnot. Not that he's a licensed electrician, so like, but we don't know how this is like up there, and so we just have to do it. And there's some things that, yes, like there's some things like I will do very minor plumbing things. And by very minor, I mean, if we have a leaky faucet, I will try to change the cartridge in the faucet that like that's what wears out or whatever, and then causes like water to leak continuously. And so I am willing to attempt that because I can still turn off the water at the bottom of the sink if I mess it up. And so if I have to call a plumber anyway, then we know what a problem is, right? But then it's conceivably like a $10 fix versus like a $200 fix. And so that's something, the first time I did it and figured it out, and also figured out that plumbing is the opposite of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, I was very, very proud that I figured that out. And so like with the same sink, like I've replaced those cartridges a number of times, but otherwise I am more inclined to call a professional versus try to do it ourselves. But yeah, that's just that. But Keith installed my nail polish shelves, and I trust I have not counted the number of bottles of nail polish I have, and I will not count the number of bottles of nail polish I have because I don't want to then think about the amount of money that I've spent on nail polish. But he installed shelves that I trust to hang that. What else did I figured out, yeah, so like I can do like super minor things, but also things that I know will not result in my house being flooded. You can unclog the sink with a wire hanger. Ooh. Yeah, when we needed well, our garbage disposal broke at the very beginning of the pandemic, and so then we didn't replace it for like a year because
we didn't want someone to come into our house. And so that was a category of thing we did not want to do on our own. Okay. So here we are. And there was a fair amount of green in the water, but we're going to roll with it, and we're going to use a yarn mop for it to try to soak up, some of that color. Now, one of the reasons why there's still green in here, and it's not that much compared to where it was before. It is quite light. But, I mean, we could wait longer, but also this is a stream versus something else. So, I'm going to remove the yarn. That's quite pretty. But we're going to have to think about, I'm probably going to move the zip ties before the next round of dyeing. But guys, we're going to have to think about if we want Caribbean blue all over, or if we want it on like half of the yarn with another color on the other half. Do we want there to be white? Or do we want the white to disappear? Is another question that I have. So I look forward to hearing what you think, because we are just flying by the seat of our pants here today. And the other thing I'll add is that we've used so far 300 milliliters of dye on 500 grams of yarn. But if you consider the surface area, the amount of dye that we have on any one of these spots of yarn is likely darker than a 1% depth of shade. So it's not, this is a circumstance where you can talk about the total amount of dye you've added, but since you're not adding the dye evenly all over the whole yarn, that is just something to think about. Okay. But you can see for that last little bit of green, which ultimately is not that much dye. You can see here that it's really, really not that much dye. We're soaking it up pretty fast because we don't have the resist that we had before. And in here, I'm also going to add that little bit of purple and a little bit of green that I had from rinsing out containers. And we're just going to leave things in here for a little bit. But you can see how uneven the green is already because our yarn soaked it up really fast. And so that is a good sign. That means that we have enough acid in here for our project. But yeah, this is where our yarn is right now. And I think, I don't know. Do we want white left? Maybe I should make a poll. Set a timer for just a little bit of time. Like, again, I don't think it needs a lot of time, but it's not a bad thing for things to heat up again. So let's see. Thank you. I'm glad you like the colors. Let's see. We can go to 2 cameras. And, oh yes, we know the water. Whenever we go out of town, we always shut off the water valve. Because you never know when something might freeze or a tube can crack and you can end up with a flood. Do we want white? Okay, so the current poll is, do we want white left in the finished yarn? Which doesn't mean we will have white left in the finished yarn, but it means that we will likely end up with white left. But if we don't like that contrast, I think what I would do is over dye the yarn with a tiny bit of the emerald green. Because see how soft that color is, how mint it is? We could shift the white to that with a little bit of green all over and still have something really beautiful, and it shouldn't shift all the other colors too much. You like the white, if there will likely still be white after one more round of twisting, so you think it would be perfect. It makes the other colors pop. Cool. But yeah, it's fun when like, it's really fun. What time is it where I am? It is currently 11 a.m. No, it's funny because like, on one hand, I love white left in yarn. On the other hand, sometimes I'm like, ooh, I don't want too much contrast. Um, but what I would recommend is that if you wanted to do this kind of project and have less contrast overall, I might dye a tonal before starting this layering, but you can also do the tonal towards the end as well. So you have options. What was I thinking? I don't know. It's 5 a.m. on Saturday. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, that is early. Maze, you're awake. Ooh, a men's 14. Woo! That is a large sock that you're making. Oh. But yeah, I used to do more live streams in the evening my time. Because I know that like, oh well, there's always like morning somewhere for somebody, but I know in the US like in the evening is easier for a lot of people with 9-to-5 jobs to tune in. But I realize that the lighting is worse and I get tired. So crochet is definitely less forgiving than knit. But let's see, I would say also with the socks, if you're concerned, continuing to try them on him in progress. Are you doing toe up? Because if you're doing toe up, it's a lot easier to try on the sock as you go. I suppose top down you can also try on reasonably. So I guess both ways work. Yeah, I think I made the mistake early on. I made this beautiful like knit one below hat for Keith, and I measured it by trying it on my own head and deciding how much to do with the size of my own head. It did not occur to me that my skull is smaller than my now husband's skull, and so that's funny. Oh my gosh, it gets dark at like 4 here in Massachusetts right now. It is so depressing. I hate when it gets dark so early, but also because it means that when when the kids have like after school and I pick them up, then it's like either I'm driving home when it's dark or I'm driving home with the setting sun like right in my eyes and I can't block it out, and that is just not as fun. But I also loathe driving. But I'm realizing I have some furniture that is supposed to arrive today. And so this is what I'm checking. Because I should get a notification if they had tried to drop it off. But, oh yeah. You're doing a toe up pattern. Okay, I think toe up is slightly easier to try on because I feel like I'm trying to get, maybe, I don't know. I don't wear socks. Ugh. I probably should try to finally make a pair of socks for my husband's birthday. I just had so much less time for knitting. Okay, I'm ending the poll. Clearly we're fine if there's white left, which is actually, that is an easier resolution. Oh, why don't we go and, like, the yarn mop is probably done. I set a timer just so I wouldn't forget. Oh, look at that! Because when hanging out with chat and then, like, checking to see when our new cabinet is going to arrive. Well, it's like, when we moved into our house, we had this really ugly, it wasn't ugly, but we had this okay, like standalone cabinet in our half bath. And it's worked okay, but it's not actually that great for any kind of useful storage. And so we just got a better, oh no, I wasn't filming when I removed that. That's okay. This is loud. I will say that this pan that I'm using is old. Okay, now this time before we twist. And so the next question is, are we going to do one color or two on the next round? But this time before we twist, I want to move the zip tie down. And so this way, the yarn that is now at the bottom and the top is yarn that was more in the middle before. And you can see like the darkest yarn that was at the ends before, that is now more in the middle and getting a little bit more resist. And so this is just going to allow us to get different coverage on our yarn. And you can even like flip the skein, so like what was inside is now outside. Now obviously we have differences between all of the skeins that we are dyeing here today, and so if you're going to use multiple of them, you will want to, you can use multiple of them in a project, you're going to want to alternate skeins, because there is no way that two of these would be identical, because if I have more twist or less twist, that is just going to alter the way things play out. But the hope is that we have something that's just fun and beautiful. Now, something else I could have done that I definitely did not do is I could have twisted the yarn the other direction, but that would not come naturally for me. So I didn't do it. So now our water level is high enough that most of the yarn, there's some sections that aren't, but most of the yarn is beneath the surface. So when we add dye this time, there is a chance that some of it will go more down, but we'll have to see. I want to see if chat had any strong opinions on color. Tight knitter. Yes, a half bath has no shower. So then, which is funny because like the if you have a listing for a house that has multiple half baths, like do 2 half baths make a full bath? I guess if you have a house that's that big, you would probably then say like 5 full baths and 3 half baths or something. But that is not something that has been on my radar when house hunting. So I think we're okay. I'm inclined to add the Caribbean blue all over. And I think that's what I want to do. Okay. And I'm going to do, I think, pretty much the same thing I did with the green. Oh, but did you guys know that emerald green is fluorescent? I only discovered this in my Hanukkah vlog, and I was very surprised because I was looking at the whole collection under a black light, and I think it was the dip-dyed royal purple emerald green thing that glowed. And so I think that we might have some fluorescent lemon pigment in emerald green. I suppose that there's also a chance that there's like a fluorescent pink and royal purple, but I think it was the green end that was glowing. So that's why I think that. Okay, and I can rinse this out into here. There's more space. I may regret using this much blue. I hope I don't. But I'm going to add acid into, well, I need to get more acid. I was like, I'm going to add acid directly into the dye. because this way I won't forget, and then I will be distributing it all over. Okay, we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a color that needs more acid anyway. Oh gosh, don't make a mess, Rebecca, don't make a mess. And so I think I said earlier in the stream that a lot of times I use a ratio of 2 tablespoons of white vinegar to 8 cups of water as a starting place. And so using 4 is also someplace I go, especially if we need more volume. Oh dear. Ooh, this is so pretty. I love Caribbean blue. I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with it because it is such a stunning blue, but it can be a little bit of a pain to get it to absorb. But I have a feeling it would do really pretty things on top of these colors, and that it would still look really pretty next to whatever is left within our resist areas. And so now we also have a second kind of question we can ask ourselves. And I'll get to that in a minute after I wash up a little bit. And it is so pretty. Oh my gosh. Okay. Take off the gloves. We're going to cover it. Oh, my spoon is over here. And for you, we'll show that the color looks reasonably deep. There is pigment, right? Plenty of pigment in the water, but we're going to cover this. The heat is still on high. This is the downside of a hot plate versus a stove, is that it just takes so much more time to heat up. And okay, the timer has 11 minutes on it because it is what it is. But now we have some choices.
Ooh, you know what I kind of want to do? Haha. I was like, ooh, we'll do the opposite. We'll let my face be big. Oh, I just want to unselect that. Oh no. Oh, come on. There we go. We can have it small. Now, the choice that I have now is I can leave this for 30 minutes and give us that 30 minutes of heat, and conceivably even let the yarn cool off in this pan. Or I can let it heat for 10-20 minutes, untwist the yarn, steam set that yarn, or I could untwist the yarn and let it heat in the pan. But since you want potentially still some white, I'm not going to do untwist it and put it back in this pan because that could add some pastels. But basically we have the choice whether we're going to leave it twisted or not for the length of time we want to heat it. And I suppose my gut says to leave it twisted for 30 minutes, then remove the yarn and then add our yarn mop. That's likely what I'm going to do, but we'll see how things look once the timer goes off. Thank you. Yeah, I thought the blue with the green, like knowing that emerald green and royal purple look so gorgeous when they're combined opens up a lot of doors, because sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with muddy colors, because muddy colors can be muted colors, they can be deep colors, they can be beautiful. Brown colors can be beautiful. But if you want sort of like a blue, green, teal, purple kind of colorway, and then the colors that you use overlap in a way that gives brown when maybe that's not something you wanted to introduce, then you might want to think further. And so the mixture of the green and purple and doing that and realizing that that broke, that was a happy accident and something that I go back to over and over. And the funny thing though is that the reason why I go back to that color combination over and over is also because those are colors that I both love and I tend to make as dye stocks. And so then I tend to have a lot of that left over. And I still have more emerald green and royal purple left over. So therefore, I'm inclined to use those colors in more videos because I have those as dye stocks. So if you ever wonder when there's a stretch of videos and it seems like I'm using the same few colors over and over, it's because this is the reason why I don't just go and make liter dye stocks with the colors I use most often anymore, because then I want to make space for my under the sink storage or something, but then like I've got those colors over and over, right? So I adore cool colors. It is totally my happy place. But I also love brights and neons, so, and rainbows, and so I can go all over the place with what I enjoy there. But yeah, it's just funny. Oh man. But yeah, I have, ooh, you know what I'm gonna do right now? I'm gonna go pre-soak some yarn. So I'm gonna take a really brief break. But you might hear me talking to myself or something. But there is another project that maybe I'll work on today for an episode of Dye Pot Weekly. And so I should start pre-soaking the yarn for that. So that I'm gonna do, but I'm doing that mostly off camera. Of course, knowing me, I might be pre-soaking this yarn and I'm pre-soaking some Swish DK. I might pre-soak this yarn and then not do anything with it until next week. Which I think the only bummer about next week is that I have a doctor's appointment for just like a routine checkup. Just like a routine dermatology, like skin check. But I think it's at 11, which is just very inconvenient, like middle of my day kind of time. But the only little spoiler I'll give is I'm using new zip ties for this project. Oh yeah. Oh man, because what I forget what I'm supposed to do every time a zip tie breaks. There was some fun with the Hanukkah chat about my zip ties. Is there enough water in here? Probably not. Because I used a lot of the pre-soak. I'm reusing the pre-soak from this project, but I need to add more water because I used that water in our dye bath. Which I would say hit or miss if I use pre-soaked water in a dye bath. So some bare yarn is a little bit dirtier, and so when you go and pre-soak it, something comes out of it. And so I don't know if it's like oils or proteins or what. But if the color of the pre-soaked water seems a little bit yellow, or if it seems a little bit cloudy, then I'm less inclined to use that as a dye bath for the project. And I will like maybe use it for washing yarn, but also maybe just toss it. So there's that. You started playing with dyeing with food coloring? Woo! Way to go, Lisa. It's really fun and a great way to get started in a very kitchen safe way with dyeing yarn. And it's funny because like my own journey, I just did food coloring for years. And then I really wanted a real black. And so then that sort of started my evolution, and then I decided I did it as a Kickstarter because I was very nervous about investing in, you know, buying a dedicated pot and buying the dyes and other stuff. I was nervous about investing in it. And so, yeah, the Kickstarter helped me feel confident that people would watch videos. And so thank you all for watching. Oh, but I felt so slow to get back in the swing of things after the holidays and stuff. Woolens is not that easy to get here, so you found some brands that still work. Oh, good. Yeah, different, like, yeah, if, I don't know if you're in the US or if you're elsewhere, but yeah, different brands can be harder, easier and harder to get in different places. And there's also different food coloring pigments available in different countries. And so, and it's just fun to play around with. You were with me in those days? Oh, thank you. And I still, so if you're a patron, there is food coloring featured in the last month's early access video, because as I mentioned at one point during the stream, we lost power for 2 days, the last week of school in December. And I was supposed to be filming my Dye Pop PS video that week. And I had no power. And it was also cold enough that I couldn't just shift to like a solar dyeing technique. In theory, I could have started my gas stove used by like, since it's gas, I probably would have been able to start the gas and then use like a lighter, one of the long lighters to light it. But I didn't want, I don't know, I was nervous. So what I ended up doing was I did a cold process in a shoebox and I used some food coloring. But I filmed it like in the dark. And it's funny because I do have natural light in my kitchen, but if I turn off the lights, it's definitely dim in here and full of, like, can be full of shadows, especially if it's not a sunny day outside. But my camera corrects for the light. And so therefore, like when I was filming, what it looked like on camera, I was like, well, that's way better lighting than what I see with my eyes right now. And so that was funny. But I had fun with it, so I used food coloring for that. Any advice for dyeing roving with a merino tencel blend? Have I dyed anything with tencel? Maybe. I've certainly dyed some things with modal. It's like a, because what, it's the tencel is just like a synthetic cellulose fiber, right? I think that the main thing I would be inclined to do with any like protein-based fiber that's mixed with a cellulose-based fiber is I would be inclined to use acid dyes on it and treat it that way. I do have a video with a wool cotton blend that I dyed with, and I'll switch over here as I keep talking. I dyed the yarn with fiber reactive dyes and acid dyes, but I was able to dye both the cotton with the fiber reactive dyes and then the wool with the acid dyes. It did, however, affect the texture of the yarn to use fiber reactive dyes with soda ash on a blend like that. So I don't recommend using soda ash on any, where's my spoon? I don't recommend using soda ash on any yarns that have wool content. Okay, we still have tons of blue dye in here. And our heat is still on high. And you can notice we're not at a vigorous boil here, right? The heat is on high. Is the ready light on? The ready light is on for this one. Oh no, the ready light just went off. Ha! The heat is on high. I'm checking.
Okay, shower curtain seems to be doing okay. The heat is on high, but while we are steamy, it is not that hot. I'm inclined, I think from now, I'm going to set a timer for 30 minutes. And so that'll give this 40 minutes on the heat, at which point I will remove the yarn and set it aside to cool. And then when I go to wash it, which the washing will happen off camera, I think. Maybe I'll film it in case there's like substantial bleeding. But after, like, if I wash it and I see a lot of blue bleeding, then at that point I might go and steam set the yarn untwisted. But I'm hoping that we can keep this nice and warm, and certainly it is getting steamy. Like if I put my hand here, it is warm. So we're getting heat. That isn't like a problem that like, oh, we can't heat this at all. So that's good. But I'm also cleaning up these dyes a little bit now because that's what I'm doing. But then I guess that means that not immediately, but in a little bit, I will be saying goodbye. Because this was the only project I was planning on dyeing today, but I figured when I was starting my schedule for the new year, I would realize, and this is something I think I'm going to do more often, is that I might do, certainly not every Friday, but I think I might stream more on the Friday slot. Especially because that can just give me a little bit of flexibility with my editing schedule. With the filming and editing schedule. And so, and plus, because there have been other times when, I guess I'll come here. There have been other times when I'm like, oh, I need to do an unboxing, but I would try to not do an unboxing live stream the same day I had a video came out, which would mean Tuesday and Friday after evenings were out. And it just made the whole week feel very complicated. So I'm always going to attempt to have some kind of new content on a Tuesday and a Friday, but then we'll see how things go. You don't even know where to get soda ash from. A lot of even like, you can probably get soda ash at even like a Michael's or a big box craft store, or specialty art stores that sometimes sell like jacquard acid dyes, like Lex or something. Okay. It's my dad. Specialty craft stores that like Blix, I think. Sometimes they'll have soda ash, especially if they carry fiber reactive dyes, or any store that sells dyes for tie-dye. Sometimes you can find soda ash there. But also, Dharma Trading Company absolutely has it. Other dye sources probably have it. I wonder if, you know who probably does not have it? KnitPicks probably does not have it. Yeah, no. Ooh. I like this pattern. That's pretty. But KnitPicks also doesn't like sell dyes, so. But I was like, I don't think they do. They sell a handful of acid dyes, but I don't think they sell citric acid unless it's in a kit. Sometimes they have kits. I don't know if I recommend trying to make your own soda ash, but also that's because I haven't looked into it. Might be called, yes, it also, soda ash might also be called washing soda sometimes, and yeah. But a lot of times if there's a place that has like tie-dye, then often you can find it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I have a massive pile of yarn over here, which is only making me sad because I have to find a spot for all of it to go. But if you want to help me with my overstuffed yarn problem,
Great segue, Rebecca. You can go and check out, hold on. This was not a good segue, Rebecca. You can go and check out the ChemKnits Creations Etsy shop. It's filled with hand-dyed yarn that has been featured in my videos. Lots of like pretty yarn. There's even still some Hanukkah yarn left over. And I think, which again, I'm so surprised, always so surprised that this skein is still in my shop, because this is the winter hat I wear and I knit with it. And it, like, looking at the yarn, I was like, oh, I don't know if it did what I wanted it to do. Maybe the sections are too big. But like, it did exactly, I'm a little too exuberant there, did exactly what I wanted it to do. So, stunning yarn. I still can't believe that this is still in my shop. It's an expensive yarn base though, so maybe that's why. But anyway, dropping the link to my shop in the chat. It's also pinned. But shopping in my Etsy shop is a great way you can help support the content here. And then, of course, if you're looking for other ways to help support the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel, there are some other things that you can do. Subscribing is the biggest thing that you can do. I do have a Patreon. You can also join to become a channel member and get access to the awesome custom ChemKnits emotes that also include my dog barking. He is upstairs today, so that's why you have not heard from Mr. Indy Ponce. So yeah. So Carla said KnitPicks had golden ochre on back over since forever. You ordered it from Joann's and got it in a week. It's Carla, it's possible. It's possible that KnitPicks is not reordering jacquard acid dyes, would be my guess. Or else it's possible. Oh, well, never mind. It's available right now. I was like, because at one point they had like a ton of colors sold out. And so then I thought, oh, maybe they're not going to sell acid dyes anymore. But it is cheaper. So I order from Dharma Trading Company all the time. And I tend to order in a lot of bulk. But you have to pay for shipping. Jacquard acid dyes are cheaper from Dharma. But with KnitPicks, you can get free shipping on orders over 65. So if you only want like one color and you're ordering yarn, it could be worth buying it from KnitPicks. Otherwise, I might go to a larger dye supply company for ordering acid dyes, but that's just me. But anyway. Yay, Jim! Yeah, I remember packing that. I remember packing that order. Oh, Tara, thank you for sharing all of the ChemKnits emotes. One of my favorites is the Do Not Touch. It's by Purple Tongs, it's Purple Tongs, but I think I use blue tongs, but it doesn't matter. I like purple. But yeah, anyway, I have tons of links in the video description. And again, like I have affiliate links. So if you're going to be shopping at KnitPicks, you feel free to head there through me. I'll get credit for referring the sale, but also don't worry about, like, sometimes people reach out and are like, oh no. I was like, shop the way you're going to shop. Don't worry about that. But if I am talking about things that I ordered and that interests you, then go ahead and use my links and then I'll get credit for referring you. If that makes sense. But anyway, I'm going to head out, patiently wait for this to finish. I have a feeling I'm going to have cheese cubes and crackers for lunch, which is honestly not a bad lunch. I did have some homemade guacamole for breakfast. I'm doing great today. No, I really am. I really am. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy New Year. And yeah, my plan is to, instead of doing a 5 to 10 minute video showing the finished dry yarn, my plan is to do a like Instagram reel, TikTok, YouTube short where I will have like a time lapse of the yarn dyeing and show the finished dry yarn at the very end of that. So that video will probably be under a minute, which, yeah, I mean, I don't know how people feel about shorts and things in general, but one of my resolutions is to try to, I mean, I have the content. It's not hard to make them out of that. It's just I'm not good at being brief. But I know a lot of people are spending more time consuming things that way, and so I should make more so that way people can find. I'm not going to stop producing the longer edited videos. It's just a live stream recap video, unless it's for, I would still do a long form one for one of the mystery surprise live streams, which shows me pulling the colors and then showing like what I created after that. That is absolutely worth doing a longer edited video. But otherwise, for a recap, I might just go for something more short form. So, but we'll see. We're trying it out, trying new things. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, everyone. And there will be a new episode of Dye Pot Weekly on Tuesday. And I'm excited for you to see what I've created. Thank you for watching, everyone.